Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 173, where a podcast talks about pop culture things that interest us. And sometimes there's whiskey. My name is John, and I'm joined
Mhm.
as always by Andrea. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Welcome again for the second time tonight. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm just so excited to
Oh,
not be the one with technical difficulties. I say as I freeze my face. I say as I freeze my face. Karma was like, "You're gonna make a joke, and I'm gonna get you."
yep. Hmm. Um, yeah. I think it's like, for once, I'm not the one or whatever. Yeah.
Yep,
As you
yep.
freeze. Right. It's
No,
okay.
the technical difficulty gods were like,
It's like
and gotcha.
instant karma.
Yeah, it
Instant.
was. Yeah, like instant ramen soup. It was instant karma soup.
Speaking of
But
which, Speaking of
mm.
which, there is
I would love to know this, speaking of which.
yeah, well, we just actually ordered a bunch of snacks and stuff and different we
Okay.
got some noodles. We've been wanting some different noodles around the house and she ordered these like shrimp ramen cups from Jeju Island, South Korea,
Okay.
and she wanted to order two of them for one for each of us to try, but it was 2 packs of 5, so they better be good. We've got a lot. So,
I love it.
so yes,
Well, good
that's
luck with
right.
your shrimp cups. Let us know how it
Mhm. I will do. I will absolutely do that.
turns out.
Okay, so we're gonna see how things go for tonight for technical
Mhm.
things. We're not off to an amazing start. I don't know what it is about our what has it been here? We haven't been doing that many shows, and now we try to, get one in here and there, and it's, things are
Being
stacked
punished.
against us. Yeah, but it's gonna be a fun show tonight for the Halloween season. I've
Mhm.
definitely been in the mood. Definitely been trying to take
Mhm.
advantage of a spooky season, whatever I can do. Got some decor up and all that sort of thing. So we're gonna do a retro rewind episode tonight and talk about From Hell. It's a adaptation of the graphic novel by Alan
Mhm.
Moore,
Mhm.
and movie came out in 2001, I believe.
Mhm.
Stars, Johnny Depp, Ian Holm, and Heather Graham. So, yeah.
Yes, as well as the, late great Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah. Yes,
Mhm.
that's right.
I
It's
mean,
a kinda
he is
all-star cast, really. There's a lot of familiar faces in this.
it's true, yeah, yeah, and, he really I mean, I know he's a supporting role, but he's just such, like, a big presence, and, I really feel like he's kind of on par with some of our mains,
Sure.
in the cast, so I had to mention him, of course.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we get to that, we'll talk a little bit about our weeks and then,
Mhm.
go over our drink holidays.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start him off with the drinks because there's not too many of them. But if you are still in the kind of, like, fall mood, even despite our 70 and 80-degree weather here in Minnesota, it is still
Yeah.
National Applejack Month, so if you're into that, make a drink with apples or Applejack. Otherwise, you can do something, kind of whatever you wanna do. You could take your pick. October 16th was National Liqueur Day. Shout out to my papa who makes his own homemade liqueurs, as his
Oh,
German family has traditionally done over the years. So props to my dad. He does make a mean, especially black raspberry is one of my favorites that he makes.
and why have I never tasted these, Andrea?
Ah, shame on me. I will bring you some next
Mhm.
time I see you.
Gotta try
Yeah,
it.
he does like to make them, and, we traditionally do, every Christmas, he brings, some of his liqueurs out, and we do a little bit of each of them in, like, a champagne toast, and everybody gets to pick their flavor, and it's kinda fun. So,
Cool.
that's a
Nice.
tradition we have. Going along with our movie setting tonight, uh October 19th was International Gin and Tonic Day, and it is the day that I have chosen to celebrate in honor of that and both the movie as well, set in London. And then today if you want to, be very present and in the moment and wildly different from any of that, it is National Mezcal Day. So,
Nice.
cheers to those drink holidays.
Cheers. Yeah. The yeah, I didn't think that's obviously a logical connection there with the gin. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. I was thinking to myself if I have tonic or not, and then I quickly thought, well, it doesn't matter because I feel like having a fall sort of beer. So I have a very
Huh.
Halloween
Yeah, you
spirited
do.
beer. It's got a werewolf on it. It's
Love it.
Elysian Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout. So
Yes,
how
that
can
is
you
very
be
fall of
more
you.
festive? Yeah.
That is very fall. It's like the other fall flavor, apples and pumpkin. One of them is always, I feel like, the other fall flavor.
Right. Yeah. I try to stick to it. I like going with you get the pumpkin, get the
Mhm.
apple, and then before we transition to peppermint and eggnog,
Mhm.
the
Exactly.
latter being your favorite, of course.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
John knows me too well.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. I haven't had a stout in a minute, a
Mhm.
good while here. Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout is spookily smooth and chocolatey with a touch of cinnamon. Definitely some cinnamon in there. So,
I
yeah,
mean, cinnamon's also kind of a fall-esque,
yeah, those warming
flavor.
spices goes into
Yeah.
the holidays for sure.
Yep,
Hmm.
for sure.
I used to have quite a few stouts, but they
Wasn't Ashley really into stouts for a while?
yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely would get them, share them, all that sort of thing. It's
Mhm.
just they're so filling, but I
Mhm.
haven't had much for
Yes.
dinner, so will work out well. Yeah. And then I also there was a new friend of mine. I shouldn't say new. He's a friend. I was like I made fun of him a bit for revealing himself. Then he's talking about a Guinness being heavy. I'm like, oh, oh, okay.
You're like,
So
"Ah, you're so cute."
yeah,
You beginner.
yeah. So well, yes. Cheers. I'm glad you're
Cheer
celebrating a holiday here. Drink
Yes.
holiday.
Well, I figured, I mean,
Um,
every other shot we see kind of in the first half of the movie is some of the, working girls or unfortunates, as they are called, downing a glass of gin, which, was the, working class drink of choice. It's the most widely available and the cheapest in Victorian London, so, yeah. I
nice.
mean, besides, like, a
Perfect.
a beer, but
I
yeah.
mean, it could have been getting I coulda, I might have a little absinthe yet. Could have pulled that out too. We get a scene of absinthe in the movie.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I
So
mean, we're as long as we don't pull out, a pipe of opium. I
well,
think
I won't
I
say
think
what it's in there. We don't need to know what's in it. So, the episode might get weird if that was the case. So
That's
yeah.
very true.
All right. Well, how's your week been? Has your week been weird or eventful or anything like that?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. As far as, entertainment kind of things have gone. Obviously, I rewatched From Hell for tonight. It's been one of my favorite movies for a really long time. But I haven't seen it for a really long time, so it felt good to do a throwback. Um, I've also just been keeping it spooky in my other kind of choices. I've watched now that I've finished the last season of Halloween Wars, season 13. I caught up on this season, season 14. Um, and then I have been catching Freeform has been playing the movie Dark Shadows, another spooky Johnny Depp uh remake technically. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I've been watching that. I kind of caught like a bunch of pieces of it and then basically made the whole movie at different
Put them
times.
together.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what? It worked. It's not one of those movies that I felt like really after seeing the pieces compelled to like sit down and watch
Right.
it. It was just like this can be on in the background and it's fine. It's good.
Sure. I
Um
forgot that movie came out. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, it was never a movie that I was like, "Ooh, I'm really gonna, intentionally watch this," but, like, when it comes on TV and stuff, it's like, "Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of, one of those movies like Beetlejuice that and it's not as good as Beetlejuice, I don't wanna say that, but it's one of those ones where it's, like, dark and spooky, but funny, so it's, like,
Yeah.
easier to just kinda have on and watch. You don't really feel like you're into anything too intense.
Well,
Unlike my
Beetlejuice.
last and final choice for my watching was Penguin episode 3, and that
Mm,
is dark and intense and definitely focus time.
sure. Yeah. I really feel bad I've been slacking on Penguin. Just it's
That's okay.
been it's been like work and then what
Mhm,
it's when anytime I get a chance, what's the other thing I should try to
mhm.
do? And it's like I've been prioritizing Halloween related things. So that's
Yep.
just been how it's fallen basically. I put one
I
video
mean
game on here because I technically did try the new Metaphor game,
sure,
but barely. So
but
yeah.
barely. You're
Mhm.
honest, it's alright. It counts, it counts. I mean, I feel like the Penguin is Halloween-esque. I mean, there's so much about, like, the Batman universe that feels, like, dark and spooky. Everybody's
Yeah.
in costumes and masks. I mean, I know technically, like, the character isn't, but Colin Farrell is, and I just still can't say enough about that makeup job. So, I mean, it
Mhm.
feels like we're
I know,
touching
but
on
see,
Halloween.
you have to reach a little bit.
You
You're
do, you do.
hit
I
it,
mean, I made
you
the
make it
connection,
work.
but it's
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's
I
yeah,
can wrap
yeah.
it, but
Sorry. We were both just doing that at the same time. Um, but yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not like directly Halloween
Mhm.
stuff, but
Yeah,
it feels in that vein.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Depending on the one, like that's why I like the Batman so much, and then Batman Forever takes place during Halloween, so I do like that
Mhm.
one for a thing. But
Yes.
yeah, um, so
Ooh, I
yeah,
froze on a
I try.
particularly great expression just a minute ago.
I did.
Oh, I did. I was like,
Oh, okay. Perfect. That will be our new
yes.
thumbnail. Replace the.
Perfect. Perfect. Alan, I hope you
Mhm,
got the screenshots.
mhm. Yeah, I managed to watch. So the horror group that I'm part of is doing a
Mhm.
movie every Wednesday now for October. Normally just once a month.
Ooh, I like it.
And I managed to get the first 2 weeks of October, and now I
Okay.
missed this last one or whatever. But the last one I saw was Alligator. So it's
Yeah, which
like
I didn't even know that was a movie,
I didn't either. No, it's
but I like
clearly a
it.
movie that came out after Jaws and
Sure.
takes inspiration from Jaws. But I remember as I was going through it, I'm thinking, um, I think it was Jurassic Park. I was like, wait a minute, I see that in Jurassic Park later. It felt like this was heavily inspired by Jaws,
Mhm,
and then Jurassic Park was saw that this movie, they saw that this movie came out, and so took things from that. I don't know.
mhm.
Maybe I'm crazy, but um, it was it was fun, but I was hoping for more. Like it needed to be
Sure.
more silly because it's it seems silly and the effects aren't perfect, but
It's
really
like
the
what,
performances
1980s?
80,
Like
yeah, it's
early
in the 80s,
80s?
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Might be 1980. I forget
Sure. I mean,
the year,
I
but
looked it up briefly earlier today because I was just like, what is this?" But
yeah.
yeah, it seemed a little old school.
It's it is relatively unique. It's pretty well put together. It just I don't know, it's not I don't feel the threat of the gator enough.
Mhm.
Um there's this weird reoccurring thing where they're always pointing out the protagonist balding. Like that's just always a thing. It's kind of strange. But
Interesting.
there's some very off the wall like side characters too, some bluntness, very I don't know. It's interesting. It's not too long. They cut to the
Mhm,
chase. So if you have nothing else or you want to put something on in the background,
mhm.
might be something That's fun.
Okay.
Um, and then Alien Romulus. I really wanted to see Alien Romulus. I'm a huge, huge Alien fan.
Mhm.
And, I say that, but it's like I've barely seen Alien because I do that with my favorite movies now where I just savor them. So I
Mhm.
don't watch them over and over. It's like a special event when I watch them. And so
That's smart.
the original Alien is due for a rewatch, but I was skeptical but hopeful of this new one, and I came away pretty happy. I don't have a lot of
Good.
complaints. There's a few things, but it's thumbs up from me. And this is the same filmmaker as the movie we watched. We both watched Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. Um,
Love that
it's just
movie.
yeah, another movie that was just it's competently done. It seems to understand the world it's in. It's well shot. Some of the cinematography or really like just world setting that they put you in is really cool looking. The
Mhm.
all the practical effects and creatures are disturbing and well done. I like all that sort of thing. It's yeah, I'm happy about it. And they're gonna be releasing it on VHS in like early December or something like that. So
Oh my god, I love it.
kind of want that. But yeah, now I definitely need to rewatch Prometheus and then Alien Covenant
Mhm.
and just to again see how more of these things connect and be refreshed on that. So,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, god,
Alien
I haven't
Romulus.
delved into the Alien franchise in a long time, which
I
is
mean,
sad.
really, I love the original Alien, and then I also have a fondness for Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and I
Mhm.
can kind of take or leave the rest of it, and until
Sure.
this now, honestly. So it's yeah, I need to give Alien 4 a proper chance, I guess, but I've just never heard great stuff, so I kind of
Yeah, man, I don't know that I've watched it, and or if I have watched it, it's definitely been once and I don't remember it. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, one of
it's
those ones where it feels like maybe I did, but I'm not positive.
it's another big cast. I think the 8th Doctor is in there and,
Okay.
uh, Ron Perlman and
Ooh, fun.
yeah, and it's a Soderbergh film, I believe, so it's, you know oh, yeah, Winona Ryder. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I have
I
watched
I
that.
should
I
give it a
have.
shot again.
I've watched it, and I because, like, I have a vague kind of, like, memory of a couple scenes with, like, Winona Ryder in it. Yeah, I've definitely only watched it once, and
Mhm.
based on my, like, lack of strong feeling, I'm guessing I was not impressed.
Yeah, but that stuff can change, over
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
so
I mean, I would totally go back and do, like, an Alien marathon, um, just to, like, see what my opinions I mean, I already know nothing's probably gonna change my amazing opinion of the first movie, but, other stuff could
yeah,
be fun to go back and check out.
yeah. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Okay. Well, then the other thing I watched was From Hell, so
Mhm.
we might as well get into it. We will be talking spoilers about the movie From Hell, starring Johnny Depp. Um, so
Was it
you'd
your first
mentioned you'd
time?
seen this before. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd
I was
seen
curious
this
as
years
to
ago.
Gotcha. I was curious as to, like, why, because I saw it pop up on there and I was like, "Interesting. Is that, like, something John watched for movie club? Was that, like, a throwback? Was that, like, "Oh, I always meant to watch and I never did, so what the" pardon the expression, "what the hell?"
Yeah,
Um, so, yeah,
yeah.
what was the kind of reason for watching?
So, it's I am through the horror group. I have discovered that I am into not all horror. I have my subsets, my
Mhm,
either thematic or whatever. So I like man versus nature or slash monster in the sense of
mhm,
like, so that'd be an alien or, even it's not horror, Jurassic Park, that sort of
mhm,
thing. I like that a lot. And then I like religious horror. So
mhm,
cults and fanaticism is for that.
mhm.
And then I like aesthetically Gothic and Victorian stuff. And
Mhm.
so I reached out to the horror group and asked like what was some Gothic or Victorian, horror movies you could suggest. And bunch of, listed a few of them. I'd seen a number of them, including From Hell.
Mhm.
Um, but it reminded me of it, and I asked Ashley if she'd ever seen it. And she hadn't, but she'd always intended to see it sometime. So
Oh,
I'm like, "Oh,
nice.
well, okay. So let's give it a go then." And
Ugh.
she used to like all the Johnny Depp movies and whatever, and she obviously likes
Yep.
horror and Jack the Ripper, so it was kind of
Mhm.
perfect. And so yeah, we gave it a rewatch. It fits my aesthetic choice, and yeah, new movie she hadn't seen. So
Yeah,
that was the impetus.
it's for me, it's one that I watched a long, long time ago, before I entered, my graduate school studies and, studied specifically the Victorian period and Victorian literature. So it's really fun to think back on like my first, watching or two um prior to that and thinking about like the plot line and the way that this played out with the, infamous like Jack the Ripper storyline plus like, for the movie Queen Victoria and her children being involved. And thinking, how potentially plausible that was and then like coming at it knowing so much more at this
Sure.
being like, there are elements, absolutely, and then other things you're just like, "Oh, that's such a stretch." Um, but, some of the, like, the core foundation and, like, the world building, the way that, like, Inspector Aberline is treated in the Victorian era, which is, like, basically the advent of a modern detective on the police force, like, that's really fun to think about, and like, that I don't know, mythology, that kind of, like, creation, that kind of character creation that's now, like, so pervasive, like, just having a
Yeah.
detective, is like a cultural touchstone, something that we can all kind of recognize, so
Yeah.
that's fun to
No.
me.
What would you I think I've asked this before. What would you say is the general time frame of the Victorian era? Like what are we talking years?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some dispute, but there's like a general consensus of around like 1836 to 1901 is when the queen died. Some people stretch it to, like 1910 or 1914 because she lived so long and her son after her reigned only 9 years until like he died in 1910. So he has like a brief period of time called the Edwardian era, but it's really, it's 9 years,
Sure.
it's not a lot. So people can tend to like wrap stuff up in there.
Sure. Okay. Well, and it's always give or take. It's not like styles and trends and culture flips on a dime, like
Yes.
it. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, the Victorian era is certainly, I think, an era that changes immensely, in terms of, like, obviously, we have the Industrial Revolution that, revamps the way that commerce, culture, even consumerism works. It's the advent, of, like, the newspaper, magazines, a ton of, like, literary periodicals. There's so much changing in the ways of communication, like, bicycles are a thing, like, trains are a thing, like, it's insane how much it
Yeah.
changes, but you're right, it doesn't, like, flip, it's not like a switch,
Yeah.
but it's the closest thing I think they can approximate to a switch at that time.
Yeah. So not only like detective stuff coming
Mhm,
anew, the idea of that, but then just the continual evolution of science
Mhm.
in general, not just
Yes.
the forensic science. But so
Medical
this
science,
movie
yeah.
obviously deals with that, and
Mhm.
I I don't know when exactly I first saw this, but it was long enough ago that I remember the movie being pretty shocking to me in a number of
Mm.
ways. Like
Sure.
one in the science elements and stuff like that. It's like it was kind of eye opening. Like, oh yeah, they took people that were, you know, kind of freaks or something strange about them, or maybe even not, and did different experiments on them. And so it just sort of makes you think about like what scientific advancements have been made at the expense of something pretty horrific. So um,
Mhm.
I thought the film is interesting because it can seem like side an aside, like there's a whole scene dealing with the Elephant Man. Like, is that exactly necessary? But it's sort of building the type of society, like elite society we're dealing with, and then the secret society that we're dealing with as well, and just sort of
Mhm.
I don't know. So it's a really interesting element of the film. It was definitely very shocking
Yeah.
to me when I first saw it. And then also, I was young enough to be like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to like the Johnny Depp character. He's doing drugs. Like, he's doing this is bad. He's doing hard drugs. So I remember, and then it was very gory, and so I just like it was fun to watch again, like all these years on or whatever, remembering it being extra impactful and shocking, but then not leaving such an impact now,
Mhm.
and how that's changed my perception of it or whatever. So become
Yeah.
desensitized.
Well, I mean, you do become desensitized. Obviously, you just as you get exposed to more things in like the horror and gore genre,
Yeah.
obviously you see more, so it's just less sensational. But I did also again have kind of similar reactions like when I was younger, like, seeing the person who was disfigured was shocking, and this sort of being put on display was super shocking. Or, like the lobotomizing of Anne
Yeah.
Crook was, I just thought, oh my God, that looks insanely painful. And it clearly is. They're like drilling holes in people's heads. Um, but as someone again who's like studied like the trends and culture of the Victorian era, this kind of theatrics and display would absolutely be of the norm. I mean, Victorians were fascinated with things out of the ordinary, supernatural things, things that were natural but twisted in some fashion. And, you know, obviously, this person that they have, they're putting on display, and fits that bill perfectly. Victorians were also into like collecting things. So these doctors are clearly like collecting specimens that they can
Right.
show off. Or, doing something like a lobotomization, which is medicine. So it is natural, but it is also science, but it is also like on display in a medical operating room in a theatrical way.
Yeah.
Very normal for the time.
Hmm.
And so now I look back at it as like, wow, this is a great job representing the culture. At the time I first watched it, was like, my God, these sick, sick people.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's I don't know, it's an interesting look at the different societies and how someone can just I
Mhm.
mean, it happened in more recent times too, where you'd have someone that has whatever profession and yeah, they go around and they become known for the lobotomy, and
Mhm.
people take them seriously. They have whatever
Right.
degree, and they get some sort of success, convince people that like there's no other choice kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then hundreds of like now non-functioning people later, you
Mhm.
know, oh maybe this guy's just wants to see people uh
Mhm.
messed up.
Yep.
So or, sitting there, gaining the accolades. So whatever it's doing to people, whatever, I'm being seen as important and valuable. So
Yeah, it's interesting that, this type of like science is really, you kind of have to step back and look at the object. If your object is to calm a person so that they are, malleable and pliant and compliant, lobotomies seem on their head successful. You're just
Yeah.
taking a person and enabling, them to be basically a vegetable so that you can do whatever you want and they don't give you any trouble. The
Yeah.
problem is like there's no nuance to it. There's no
Yeah.
like, if somebody actually is suffering from a condition, sure you've taken away the violence, but you've taken away the person.
Yeah.
So, it's a very crude method by which, and a low bar by which these doctors are measuring success of an operation.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
interesting to see like the way that we've understood like, yeah, this is a pretty blunt instrument that we're, working with here.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see we've made some sort of progress, but we're still on we're still on the spectrum where like you can see the evolution, but like
Mhm.
in my opinion, it's common yet today to have things. You have a physician that is treating a specific thing, and it's like, right,
Mhm.
if I fix that thing, if it goes away, success.
Right.
Well, doesn't mean it doesn't cause other things, or maybe you're not treating the root cause of whatever.
Mhm.
It's basically like giving someone, you know, I don't know, something that makes their back feel better, but the root cause is you're like 200 pounds overweight. So,
Mhm.
like, if it's just one of those things where and then that thing that fixes your back maybe makes you dizzy. The side
Yeah.
effect is you're dizzy now. So,
Yeah.
well, it doesn't matter. I fixed the thing that you had a problem with. Well, now you're dizzy. Well,
Right.
take this for dizziness. And before you know it, you're on 4 things and you just
Yeah.
never looked at a holistic thing and treated the basic, whatever. So I just think people still have the same tendencies to like, I need to solve the thing
Mhm.
quickly, regardless of the consequences. And obviously it's showcased in a very dramatic,
Right.
severe way.
Right. Right.
Uh,
It's
you
very
know,
it's very sensationalized here,
yeah.
obviously, which,
Mhm.
would be for our effect and also, be again appropriate of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's like you look at insane asylums, you don't really have that anymore. And
Mhm.
it's a popular meme to be like, this is why we need insane asylums back. But you got so many of them that were out of control, because
Mhm.
it would be that kind of thing. Like, I can't deal with all these people, and we're just
Mhm.
gonna try to shut them up or make them passive or whatever, and
Right. They're not
then
gonna be
people aren't treated
really
well.
people anymore.
Yeah. hmm So it's a fascinating element of the film that I had forgotten
Mhm.
was played as big of a part as
Mhm.
it does.
Sure.
Um, I also didn't realize back when I watched it initially how much the secret society member and like head of police was
Mm.
always looking to blame like the Jews or something. So I didn't remember that part, but it was a funny added element that yeah. Again, going along with like you'd see Depp's character have a line of questioning. It's like, no, that you can't look that way, or
Yeah.
don't think that way. Like look at people. It couldn't be someone that's of good blood, someone
Mhm.
that's educated, and so it immediately
Yes.
starts throwing out the path of looking at evidence and where that
Mhm.
leads to go back to an older and so it
Yes.
just showcases the newness of this whole profession, as you point out, of
Yeah,
detective.
yeah. That was a very, very big fear, in the Victorian era that was, kind of highlighted by the creation of the detective because the detective was supposed to be able to go into the private sphere of the wealthy, into their homes, like into their lives. So it was supposed to, like, start questioning them. And, a lot of detectives were sort of treated with the faux veneer of gentle or like upper middle class, where they were accepted acceptable, but it was still very much like a fear of the upper class that, like, oh my God, they're invading our spaces. They're taking over. They're, going to start accusing us of things. So there was a lot of tension and a lot of restriction in this profession, especially early on. Um, and I think it's a tension that was really helped by Charles Dickens and Wilkie Collins, who were like two. I mean, I know people have heard of Dickens, but may not have heard of Collins. He was one of Dickens' proteges. They did a lot of fictional work featuring detectives, and they would feature like some bumbling ones who were kind of representing this like old school way of thinking, and then they would feature these like really smart suave new ones who were again like very polite, very mannered, very intelligent to sort of like ease these fears, like, hey, this is really a good thing, like we really need to let these people, figure out what's going on here.
Sure.
So that you can see that it's very loosely obviously represented in the movie, but you can see that obviously, as you pointed out, by Johnny Depp's superior just being like, "No, no,
Yeah.
no, not the upper class, thank you."
y- Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Um, Speaking of Dickens, I bought a couple different, I think 4 different classic books. I just
Hmm,
It's like, "Oh, we're gonna be teaching our kids a lot of stuff. I wanna read some
sure.
more classic literature." So, picked a
What do you
few
got?
prominent authors and got a book from each of them. I'm wondering if I have them set out. Well, I've got, yeah, I've got 2 of them here. One people will have heard of, no doubt, Sense and Sensibility.
No, no, not
Yeah, does it
familiar.
ring a bell? Okay, yeah. And then, Great Expectations by
Ah,
Charles Dickens.
yes. Yes. That's a classic. I remember that being taught in, like, 7th grade literature.
We didn't. We did
You
not have
didn't?
that.
Okay. Did you have any Dickens at all? Or did you I
Um,
mean, were you,
I'm sure we had
okay.
something. Let's see. I mean, I was pretty happy generally with our, literature, um, in school, really, but could always have read more, so I know, and then I kinda thought of it
Did you
again, I
read A
think because we
Christmas
were
Carol? Because I feel like a lot of classic
uh,
people read A Christmas Carol.
I don't think so. I mean,
Really?
obviously, we saw all that sort of thing. Let's see,
Sure.
I'm
I
looking
feel
through
like
his works
that was
here.
a really, you know, popular, and it's an easier Dickens story. It's one of his shorter ones, actually.
Um, I don't think we did read anything.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, yeah, because many I recognize, but, um, no. I was trying to, like, trying to pick good ones. I have to find what the other books I got. I'm sure it'd be interesting. You can tell me if they're any good or not in
Yeah, yeah,
advance.
for sure. I mean,
But
I've read these 2, so,
sure.
I'm interested to see if I've read all 4.
Yeah. Um, let's see. So yeah, what else? Is there anything else that stood out to you as being like wholly inaccurate for the time
Yeah.
period?
I mean,
What were some of the
not to the time period, but
okay,
inaccurate,
to
for, like,
to
the
the
story.
situation? Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay. Um,
Other
okay,
than, like,
so
everybody again is, like, nice and clean, and, they would not be.
y-
I get it. At least it's everybody, and it's not like some people were really dirty and some people were, like, nice and clean. It's like, you know, everybody was clean, so whatever. We're just rolling
well,
with a kindler, gentler version of London here.
yeah, I mean, okay, that's fair. But I will say, I think that for a uh modern film that is designed to be relatively digestible. It's already quite a bit of gore and stuff. Pretty grimy, compared to a lot of things. I mean, obviously, like, yes, our main cast is pretty clean and stuff like that, but they have the people on the street, and when you first see the unfortunates, first see the whores. You're like, Heather Graham stands out.
Yeah.
It's
Her
everybody
hair's,
else,
like,
like,
perfectly brushed and curled. I'm like, "Yeah,
is so
sure.
bright
Sure."
red, and yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and everybody else is all, like, they're extra cockney, and they're,
Yeah.
like, pick their teeth and stuff like that, and,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I think there's one, I think it's Dark Annie, and she's got, like, stringy hair, she's got some soot, smudgy stuff, like,
mm.
she actually genuinely looks like maybe, I felt like they picked just one of them and just, like, grimed her up, and she was like, "I'll do it. I will go for it." And everybody else is like, "No, I'd like to be pretty."
Yeah. We should do they should do more things that are, like, instead of selling the fantasy version as much for some period pieces, be more honest about it. I mean, because it's like westerns. It's
Mhm.
American genre. It's great. They're exciting. It's awesome. But most westerns are quite obviously sensationalized and
Mhm.
whatever. And it's stuff like you don't. It's I forget what TV show it was where they really show like the Romans using a public
Oh,
latrines and
yeah.
just all like
Sure.
sitting next to each other taking a dump. It's like things you don't think about or whatever.
Yep.
Um, it should just we should have some more of that stuff, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah,
I'm good with
I don't
both,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I don't need, like, every movie ever made to, like, every 15 minutes a character has to, like, go to the bathroom. Like, I get it. I used to complain about that and be like, "Why don't they ever show people going to the bathroom?" And, like, I feel like there are more shows that do that kinda stuff now. Um, but yeah, I mean, this in particular, just kind of looking back at it, I was just like, "Everybody's so pretty and showered and bathed and,
they have
very
teeth.
combed." Yes, they have teeth, like, they have one guy with, like, a brass tooth or whatever. It's like, "Come on."
Yep.
Like, some
Mhm.
people, again, obviously are upper society, like our literal royalty,
Yeah.
would be bathed. They would be clean. They would be coiffed and pampered and, all of that. But yeah, the rest of it was just like, okay.
Yeah. You should watch the show Taboo. So I was looking
Taboo.
up
I know I've heard of that before.
it's 1812. It's the time period set in, and it's starring Tom Hardy. Same showrunner
Yes.
as Peaky Blinders. Um,
Yes. Yes. I think you may have recommended this to me before. I
yeah,
know
I probably
somebody
did.
has.
I probably did as I was watching it, but
Funny enough, before, like, I'd seen enough of Tom Hardy to just sort of, like, instantly recognize him, there were a
mhm.
couple of occasions that I did get him confused with, the guy who plays the carriage driver in this movie,
Oh, funny. Okay.
Netley. Yeah, they were,
Yeah,
like, I mean, they were similar enough that, like, back before Tom Hardy was, like, a name, I got him a
true.
little bit confused, or, like, I would be like, I don't think you are, but you look similar," so,
Yeah,
anyway.
okay. Yeah. Let's see what else. So, I like talking about the historical elements and stuff, but if there's anything we have to say about like performances, I think again it's a pretty rock solid cast
Mhm.
and kind of don't have an issue with anyone's performance. Like Ashley didn't recognize that Ian Holm was in this, and it's like, oh, it's Bilbo. Didn't recognize
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Far cry from Bilbo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did she guess the plot twist? Like, was she seeing it coming? Was it a surprise to her? Were there, like, later clues? Kind of did you know when she figured it out?
I didn't, and she didn't remark anything of that. I
Okay,
definitely should have asked though, because she wasn't like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it's him," but at the
sure.
same time was not like, "Oh, I see this happening."
Yeah.
So sometimes you watch a movie and you're into it, and you aren't trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Sometimes the movie's kind of setting up like it wants you to try to figure out who's
Mhm.
responsible, and sometimes it's just like, no, you're just gonna the mystery will unveil itself as it's supposed to, and so yeah, and I'm sure different people vary on it, but I'll ask and and get back to
I'd
you
be
on that if she.
curious. I know when I first watched it, I did not guess it right away. And I mean, I thought about it, but it wasn't like I was super invested in like I gotta figure this out. It was just like this is
Mhm.
awesome. This is great. Like, I wanna know what's going on. And I think that, the kind of reveal of why Jack the Ripper was, killing these particular women was, a good one. Again, it was like a mystery I wasn't
It's
like desperately
unique.
trying to solve, but it also wasn't exactly what I expected. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like they sort of give you half the picture and you feel satisfied enough with it, and then they come in with a little bit more context and it's like, "Oh, damn, okay, like this is
Yeah.
why." So, yeah, I like that
I
about this movie.
I agree. I totally really didn't get that when I originally saw it. I think
Mhm.
this is at least the 3rd time I've seen this movie, but it's
Sure.
been years, and
Yeah,
I
same.
definitely had a greater appreciation, for his motive, 'cause I do remember the first time seeing it and being surprised that it was him,
Mhm.
because they do a
Yep.
pretty good job of covering
Yeah.
he's he's ill, he's not doing well, this person would need a sure hand, all that sort of thing.
Right, right. And he seems,
Um
like, friendly and affable, but, like, genuinely
Mhm,
confused about some things. Yeah.
yeah, yep. So that's all good. But then, yeah, this is like, as a this type of person got royalty sick and is going to die, and that's a stain on my reputation and the crown.
Mhm.
That's different. That
Mhm.
is a different motivation,
Yep.
and it's kind of cool. And of course he gets off on it. Of course and then the
Oh god,
twist of
yeah.
of that at the end being, I didn't really understand the secret society stuff either then at the time, but it's
Mhm.
like, the that none of you hold a candle to me. Like, this was my purpose. Basically, you know, I am serving something greater than you would know. And like, he doesn't care about their judgment. You can't
Mhm.
judge me. And so
Mhm.
like that sort of amazing hubris is cool. I think that Ian Holm plays it well at the end. Like, I buy
Mhm.
it. So
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, and then it comes full circle with his own, lobotomy,
yeah,
as his judgment, and in the beginning he's watching Anne Crook, and then now he's like having it done to him. It's just like small things that small, closing of loops I didn't really fully appreciate when I first watched it, and now I'm like, yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and like you said, you know, watching it this time knowing spoiler alert, who Jack the Ripper is and, how he acts and interacts with Inspector Aberline throughout the movie, there's a definite tinge to the way I watch scenes where he opens up his like surgeon kit and he's like, "Oh, depending on the wounds you're describing, I think he would have to have like a field surgeon kit. Would it be like this?" And it's totally like he's getting off on showing him the
mhm,
actual kit he's using, but he's so
mhm,
like indifferent about it seemingly, but knowing that
yeah.
he is, you're like, no, this is just like, oh, am I gonna get caught? I'm not gonna get caught. I'm too good. Like, oh, such
Yeah,
great work. I love it.
he flips quick,
Hmm.
when it's like, he's so nice to Johnny Depp, and then all of a sudden, like, "Oh, you're dirt, you're filth," and,
Hmm.
I they make his eyes black, which is cool. I wonder how the performance would have been without it. I just would like to see
Yeah.
it completely done without the addition of the contacts or whatever.
Or have some sort of something chemical maybe that, or something that triggers, I don't know. There's just such like an odd like switch into, and it's not for me enough of like a, I don't know, physical sign of like a mental break or a disorder or, like a split personality. Like there isn't enough of an establishment there for me to see like a physical sign of that. Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
Well, I think it's to me, it's like bringing in the question of the actual supernatural. Like
Sure,
you're actually a demonic element at work here,
sure.
and that's how I take it.
It's just such a loose thing. It is like visually cool to just be like, okay, now we're watching Jack the Ripper. And it's a cool effect. It makes him look creepy for
Hmm.
sure. It's just not like it's just such an odd thing to see, but then also in some scenes not see. When he first lays down by the bed of who we think is Mary Kelly, he doesn't have black eyes at that moment. He just has
Sure.
his eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what is it's a little
Yeah.
inconsistent.
The the
What's the trigger
Lord of
here?
Darkness hasn't taken over yet.
Right, yeah, what's the trigger for Jack the Ripper here?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, what do you think of the ending? What do you think of, the we kind of are introduced to Depp's character,
Mhm.
chasing the dragon
Yeah.
and in his opium den, and that's how we end it. Like he has the choice to go off with Mary Kelly and maybe live happily ever after
Mhm.
with the rescued baby,
Yep.
and he doesn't take it.
Heir to the throne. Although, technically, no, because it's a girl. Um, so, I mean, I know they obviously Queen Victoria was there, but if they had male heirs, they would have preferred. Um,
Mhm.
anyway, yeah, I think it's actually very fitting for the movie. I think it would have been weird if we got, like, a happy ending. I
Mm.
mean, first of all, it wouldn't fit the tone of the movie, and second of all, it really wouldn't fit Johnny Depp's character. He's not like a happy ending kinda dude. He's not I can't see Inspector Aberline living in a cottage by the sea. I mean,
Mm.
he's got certain talents and gifts, and he's genuinely seems to like his work. He obviously likes chasing the dragon, and I don't know that you can do that where Mary Kelly and Alice live out their lives. So yeah, so I really feel like it's fitting tonally. It's also, I think the movie does a good job, even though the premise is wildly unbelievable. It does a good job of setting the stakes. If Mary Kelly really is protecting a bastard child of the heir to the throne who could someday be in line for the throne herself, the royal family would absolutely spare no expense to, like, you know, find her as a witness, and, potentially do something with this child. So he's like, if I even gave a hint that she was still alive, she saw the marriage of the crown prince to this whore, like, I can't, she's not gonna live. So if he goes and gets her, like, yeah, they're gonna track him down.
What part do you think is, like, absolutely ridiculous? What premise?
The
What
marriage. The marriage. Like, Prince Albert would never be that much of an idiot to think that he could just go actually legitimately marry a prostitute. Like,
so
sure,
but
sure,
but was
carousing,
he
having kids, like, totally whatever. That could have been covered up, hidden, shuffled off into some back
Mhm.
secret corner, whatever, taken care of. There's no way that this guy thought I can have a legitimate marriage and relationship with and raise like a family.
Right.
There's no way.
Okay. Well, that is, I mean, I guess they did actually get married, right? That is the
They
case.
did that, which
Just
is like
had their little ceremony and stuff like
right,
that,
which
so
is like the crux of why these other people are sort of allowing Ian Holm to go nuts
yeah.
and kill these women. Is like somebody's going to do it, he wants to do it, like he's taking care of it. This is a problem for us because it's a legitimate ceremony. We need
Yeah.
to cover that shit up and we need to kill the witnesses. So this works
You
out for
never
everybody.
know what people think they can get away with.
Yeah,
And then sometimes do. I was listening to a podcast, and I stopped listening to it because with kids is too
sure.
awful. But this guy in Germany, he was part of the Hitler Youth, so he's a great guy, and he was awful to his family and everything.
Mhm.
He eventually had a daughter that with with the help of the community, with taxpayer money, he built this like shelter, this bunker underneath his house. And the
Mm,
idea was to be like it was like a bomb shelter kind of thing. He was sort
mhm.
of a known prominent person in the community, and he's used to building stuff. He would like build other people's places and whatever. He built this underground thing with like 7 doors and locks and whatever, and he trapped his daughter in there and raped her for years
Jesus.
and had multiple children with her that
Oof,
he
oof.
kept down there. So these kids, some of the kids never saw daylight for
Ugh,
20 years.
gross.
They're Eh, I I just it's unf and he had a separate family. So he had his wife upstairs and, other kids and stuff, and then
I
occasionally
mean,
he'd bring a kid from downstairs in the dungeon upstairs, and he'd say that he'd set up a thing where the kid is dropped off because he made up a story that this daughter that's just gone now
yeah.
ran away to a cult. And so he'd have a letter written from her from this cult saying, I left and
Jesus.
whatever.
I was
And
that was
so,
my next question is, like, how did they believe the daughter was just, like, gone? How did she
yeah,
go somewhere? But
yeah.
okay,
And
creepy.
and then they made up the rules that like in this cult, you can only have so many kids and then you can't keep more than one or two or whatever. And so they had to send away. So
God,
they
people's
got
brains
it's
come
just
up with weird stuff.
yes, yes. But it's just like, how could you think you get away with that? It's absolutely insane. It's
Mhm.
horribly evil. And but he did, you know? So
Yeah.
who's to say the prince doesn't think he can have a side piece and make it legit
Oh,
or whatever, you know? And like,
see, that's all of that I believe, like, Birdie was a party boy, like, he was infamous, and that's why like, it's party that's part of excuse me, why Victoria was, like, reluctant to have him assume the throne despite the fact that she also lived forever. Um, so, I mean, I bought that, I totally bought the, like, I went out and had a side piece, when Ian Holm was like, "He has a taste for unfortunates," and I'm like, "Cool, great, he likes prostitutes, whatever, like, your tastes are your tastes, man." It's literally just the legitimate Catholic marriage that, first of all, like, just would not the marriage part would not have happened,
the
he would have
church wouldn't
known,
even
like
do it.
like, it's just beyond the pale to, like, think you could get married, um, and, like, have a family, just knowing who you are,
Mhm.
it just that part to me was just like, "Oh, boy."
Sure.
The rest of it,
Okay.
like, you know, legit, he's got syphilis, the real Prince Albert did not, but he was often ill. So,
Okay.
whatever. Like,
Could have
he could
been. Yeah. Could have
right,
easily
like,
add the history to this. Yeah.
this could have been yeah, this could have been like, a untold story. Like, oh,
Yeah.
one time they said he had typhoid fever, it's syphilis. Like, cool. I got all of that. Sir William Gull was his physician. Like, all of this detail was really great. It was, like I said, just the marriage part of it that I was just like, I can't with that. But in this world, the fictional element of having them be witnesses was a good plot point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I I don't I don't know. I don't love him dying at the end.
Mhm.
But I could accept that. I think what it needed maybe was a few more flashbacks with his wife because that was the reason he got hooked initially and started doing this is to deal with the loss of his
Loss.
family.
Mhm.
And so if we kind of had that as a reminder, so it's like it wasn't just I mean, I guess so the idea is like, well, look, I'm going to reject potential happiness so I can protect her.
Mhm.
That's fine. I get it. But maybe the added element of I also just can't the reason I can't pull myself out and be happy personally is
Mhm.
because I still grieve over my
Mhm.
wife and child. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's not a
Yeah.
needed element.
No, I think it is. It's because it's such like a sparse element interjected in the story. We have like 2 flashbacks, I think.
I only
And they're not
remember one, but there's
yeah,
could be another. Yeah.
it's not long. And then he talks about, what happened. So it's one time I think to Heather Graham.
Yeah.
So it's not a heavy plot point, and I think they could have drawn the connection more clearly that yes, he was turning to opium to, deal with the pain of this incredible loss. The one small detail I did love was when he was trying to tell this to Heather Graham, and he couldn't remember how many years it had been. And I was like, "Ooh, like that's such like a real thing, especially
Mm,
for somebody using opium." He would have been
yeah.
like, "Man, I don't even like my life is kind of foggy. I don't remember timelines." So, props to that weird small detail. But the other thing I could think they could have made clearer is by not going after her and kind of, losing himself to opium and, question, did he kill himself or did he just accidentally overdose? Like, did he mean to go right then? Um,
Yeah.
he's really saying, like, I can't, if I go there with them, they're probably going to be killed, and I can't deal with the loss of another woman and child that
Hmm.
feels like my fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That'd
Like, I just
be a
can't
good
do it
added
again.
drive it
Yep.
home.
Right,
Yeah.
right. To really be like, I need to protect them because I can't go through this again. Because if I get them killed, I am going to feel guilty. And also, once again, I will be the sole survivor and I just can't do it. So
Yeah.
I think they could have punched up that element for sure.
Sure. Um. Okay. Well, I mean, what else we gotta say about From Hell? Anything? I like the film. I liked it when I first
Mhm.
saw it. It was shocking, but I was drawn to the look of it, and then in subsequent rewatches, including this most recent one, I still like it. I think it's a little
Okay.
underrated. I think that there's a lot of Jack the Ripper stories. I've read one and now in Batman,
Yeah.
and I've read one by Mandy Summers and a couple different things. And this is still, I don't know, this is still to me the Jack the Ripper story.
Mhm. It's a good one. It's a good one. They weave in a lot of accurate historical elements. They give you great reasons as to why these people are doing things. Ian Holm gives a hell of a, kind of Jekyll and Hyde performance between, his outward society facing doctor and Jack the Ripper. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great. He's
Yeah.
very compelling to watch. And I think Johnny Depp gives a solid performance in his own way. Um, being the inspector putting all of this together, and Robbie Coltrane is just such like a great sidekick kind of guy, but he's such like a you can feel the love he has for Johnny Depp's character, which is why
Hmm.
the ending is especially sad to me when he, figures out, "Oh my god, I'm not just pulling you out of the opium den this time."
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
That's.
It's the performances that make it work.
Hmm. All right. Very cool. From
Mhm.
Hell, everybody. Go watch it
From
if you. Well,
hell.
hopefully you have watched it if you watched this, because we just ruined it all. Um,
Ruined a lot of it. I
but
mean, I don't think it's ruined. I mean,
yeah, we
yes,
both
it is,
know, and I mean,
but we
obviously,
both know, but it's still good.
it would be nice as an adult to watch it for the first time and not know the twists and stuff. That would be cool. So, like, I know Ash liked it. Um, came away a fan. So,
Mhm.
um, have you, on a related note, I'll say,
Yeah.
have you watched The Brotherhood of the Wolf?
No, I have not.
Okay. So it
Brotherhood of the
is
Wolf.
French and it is
Okay.
on um, Amazon Prime,
Okay.
and it is by the director of Silent Hill. movie, which, yes, you like. And it has a few familiar faces in there. I don't know if you'd recognize
Okay.
their names or not, but you would recognize them if you saw them. The
Oh,
Iron Chef guy is in there.
yeah.
Monica Bellucci's
Oh,
in there, of
and
course.
Vincent Castle.
Mhm.
That's
So
fun.
there's a scene. I started it. I started the movie and I immediately liked the look of it. And there
Okay.
was one scene, it's like, okay, maybe this is a little bit, I don't know. But then it kept going and I was interested again. So
Okay.
if you want to watch it, it feels like I don't know what year it actually takes place in or is supposed to, but it feels Victorian
Mhm.
to me and but French and
Interesting. It's also from 2001.
oh, funny. Yeah, that's funny. Didn't realize that.
Watch The Brotherhood of the Wolf, Prime Video. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, it's the right one. Um, one of the links was saying I could watch Brotherhood of the Wolf on Amazon Prime, but it was showing, the poster for The Wolfman with, like, Benicio del Toro and,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Emily Blunt and Anthony Hopkins, and I was like, that's incorrect. I've seen this, and that's not what that
Well,
is."
and there's
But
also
it was just, like, linking to something else related you could watch.
there's also the English language version, which
Right.
I'm not watching that one, but
Yeah.
um I'll watch the original. But if you're interested, I'm planning to watch that when I can
Sure.
continue that. And
Sure.
yeah, I'm on my trek to find more gothic and Victorian Halloween horror type movies.
Yeah,
So
what I'm interested, what other recommendations did you get?
well, boy, I wonder if I can find. I'll have to look that up separately. What they were. Some of them were like again stuff seen like from hell and then Perfume, which I've
Perfume?
wanted to watch for a long time. That's
Interesting.
Alan Rickman, and that there's like it's horror per not horror per se, but it's kind of creepy and gross and
Sure.
definitely has that kind of look. So I remember coming out and being very interested, but never got to see it. So Perfume, and then there was another Wolf one that is by it's the same author
Was it The
as
Wolfman?
Interview with the Vampire. Um,
Oh, Anne Rice?
Yes, I believe so.
Hmm,
So I did watch that, and
interesting.
I mentioned it. It is it's good. It's got I can see the Interview with the Vampire elements to it.
Mhm.
It has some really cool shots. It didn't come together as great as I wanted it to be because the story
Sure,
was a little disjointed. Why how things were happening in what sequence or whatever. But
sure.
yeah, and then I'll have to look up this list yet, but,
Okay. I mean, are you looking for things that are just set in that period? Because I mean,
um
obviously, like, you have some of, Interview with a Vampire is set during that
right,
time, but it's, not like Victorian London.
right.
Um, The Woman in Black is set, I think, during that
That was a
general
recommendation. Yep.
era, which
Mhm.
I did love that movie. Crimson Peak.
That was another recommendation, also seeing that
Okay.
one. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah,
And
that's what's immediately I know there's several, like, specific Jekyll and Hyde movies as well.
mm,
So I'd have to think about which ones. But
what'd
yeah.
you think of Crimson Peak?
What did I think of Crimson Peak? In
Yeah.
general, I liked it. There were some overdone effects that I didn't love. Sometimes it felt like it was trying too hard. But the overall, like, you know, like, battles and the kind of struggles of the characters, I liked.
Okay.
This was something that, I kind of saw coming, but it was still creepy. and you still had to, figure out a way for your main heroine to get out of her predicament. I don't want to spoil it too
Right.
much because we obviously didn't plan to talk about it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I remember liking it overall, not being amazed or, totally wowed by it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like, I really like the look of it. I like some of the
Mhm.
performances. It's good to see Charlie Hunnam in something else or whatever, but
Yeah.
it didn't come together as like
Oh, just
overly.
amazing,
Yeah.
yeah. If you want movies that are set in that time period or kind of hewing to a kind of Victorian steampunk that aren't as amazing, but they are amazing because 'cause they're not amazing. I mean, I'm thinking of, like, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, what's the other one that I just had in my brain? It's, like, the same. It's, like, that general steampunky era, but it's, like, not some.
Yeah, it was a real thing for a minute.
Yes.
Um, and it's due
Van
for a
Helsing.
comeback.
Van
Oh,
Helsing.
yes. You
I
know,
mean, it's the same. It's it bad but bad but good.
yeah, there's some
You just
scenes I really like the casting of Dracula in that movie, actually. And there's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
kind of
Richard Roxburgh.
hall
Yeah.
scene with him that I really like.
Yes.
He's got a
I
good
agree.
presence. So,
Mhm. Yep.
um, The Company of Wolves.
The
That's the other one that I
Company of
watched.
Wolves. Okay.
Yeah. So another Wolves one.
Gotcha.
So
Into
that's
wolves,
also
my
on
friend.
Amazon. BAFTA Film Awards, four-time nominee.
Ooh.
So Angela Lansbury, David Warner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
So yeah, it's not very long, 1985.
Hmm. This is like a vaguely sort of Red Riding Hood vibe for the main character.
Yes. Mhm.
There's
It's
another
very
one, Red Riding Hood. That's bad, but good, but because it's bad.
it's very the movie's very storybook kind of thing, sort of
Sure.
told as a tale, and yeah, it
Yeah, interesting.
absolutely is playing with that sort of
Sure.
Riding Hood thing. Yes.
Sure.
So, well, there's some, recommendations, some other stuff. If you have
Mm.
out there recommendations for gothic looking
Yeah.
Victorian type, not doesn't even have to be horror movies because Halloween will pass, I guess, and then we can
Mhm.
just have um dramas and stuff as well. It's throw them at us. Let us know.
Yeah.
We're the best. So um otherwise, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all those sorts of things. If you'd like to support us, you can do so on our Spotify page. You have the option there. We're streaming now on Kick and YouTube and Twitch. Hopefully, get back on X soon. That's possible thanks to Restream, which is a monthly fee. So that's where that money would initially go to if you decide to support us through Spotify or something like that. Um, Otherwise, yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're on all the podcast directories, we're on the platforms I just mentioned, and reviews and thumbs up and all that stuff would be greatly appreciated. So, I think that'll do it from us. Sorry, it's been a long time, but we'll be back. I'm thinking hopefully next week for an anime episode finally to talk about the beginnings of Don Da Don. Get the first
Yeah.
few episodes, see what people think about that. And
Super
yeah, we'll
stoked.
see where it goes from here. Spooky season continues, so
Mhm.
maybe we can get in something else spooky. Otherwise, Penguin's still a thing. And then in November, I know I am really worried, but I am going to be giving the Dune television show a try. Yeah. So
Yeah.
please be good. Dune
Yeah.
TV show.
It's hard not to worry, especially when the movies have been good. It's almost like, God, when is the shoe gonna drop?
I know.
But
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll
Mm,
find out.
mm. I like this synergy we got. We have Dune Part 1, and Dune Part 2. We're gonna have Dune Prophecy this November, talking about really delving into the Bene Gesserit, and it has one of
Mhm.
my favorite underrated actors in there. That's from Raised by Wolves, which was
Mm,
canceled. So now he's here. Travis, whatever his
still a
name is, or something.
yeah, still a
And
travesty. Travis
mhm,
Fimmel, I think is his name.
yeah, yeah. And then this spring is going to be the Dune online video game,
Mhm,
which looks promising. It was delayed, so then, and they're gonna start filming the next Dune in
mhm.
I think 2026. Um, Dune Messiah. So lots of Dune,
Yeah.
lots of Dune. But if it
Hopefully
can just
all
all be good,
yeah. I was gonna say the trick is hopefully it's all solid content. We'll see.
yeah. Because it's like, oh, this year could be a really great year for Batman or not. It's like,
Mhm.
fortunately, we got the Penguin so far.
Yes.
So,
I'm
um,
still I'm still very solidified in my choice that, I know that they were developing multiple TV shows for Reeves universe, and I'm so glad they chose this one instead of
okay.
redoing like a Gotham, kind of PD with Jim Gordon.
Mhm.
I mean, God love the character, but we've had a lot of that. So this is something unique and I appreciate it.
It sounds like those other projects aren't exactly just dead. It sounds like they just decided to maybe incorporate some of those elements into other projects.
Yes.
So maybe that's
Yeah,
becoming
it's
more of a thing of the film or something like that.
right. It's all very in flux and that's fine. I'm just saying like I'm just glad that
Yeah.
like this is the project that they chose to
I
first
agree.
focus on.
We don't need a weekly, crime of the week kind of thing or something like that or
We've done
whatever.
it. We've done it.
Yep.
So,
Mhm.
kudos. Good choices.
Yep. Okay. All right. That'll do it from us. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And Andrea, thanks for joining me as always. We'll see you next time.
Of course. Cheers everybody.